Okay, you and my grandchildren. Look, this is 10/12/2025, and I hope and pray that this follow-up video to my last one is always seen if my last one is not seen. I mean, my first one today, which I expressed a lot of emotion, because I know I did. I didn't know it was going to hit me like that, with my emotion. But it did. And that's the way sometimes emotion comes on, when you least expect it. Look, that's the same way God comes on too, when you least expect it. That's the way when Jesus Christ comes on, if he does for you, when you least expect it. If you got a relationship with Jesus Christ, then he's gonna be making your acquaintance on different occasions when you least expect it. Especially if you got a long-term relationship with him like I do. Look, I had a relationship with Jesus Christ ever since I, was like in 3rd grade. When my mom told me that I didn't have to take that medicine anymore. Because she said Jesus healed me, and I never had any more seizures. And I never went back to the doctor, and it all ended upon her word of faith. She had the vision, and when she got filled with the Holy Spirit and was speaking in tongues at a United Pentecostal church, I think in Valparaiso, Indiana, or somewhere around there. Look, she said Jesus appeared to her and told her that I was healed. I didn't have to take any medicine anymore. And I never had any more seizures from epilepsy after she said that. All right? So, I can't remember actually what I was telling you that for. Anyway, I guess it was important that you know that. Well, I mean, I don't remember actually what really the angle was I was thinking from anymore. Got me so off track. But the thing is, I just want to follow up on my last talk on 10/12/2025, because I realized that I was caught. Oh, because I was caught. Anger like caught me all of a sudden, like it does. But like, I don't know, certain times, it's gonna say, hey, look, I'm sitting at the table. When I call together a meeting of the minds, okay, well, you know what? I wasn't expecting somebody to speak as I don't know if you would use the word gumption, authority, incentive and drive, assertion, emotional appeal and dictate, because it matters and it will not be silenced. Okay, well, Jesus Christ's that way too. I guess that's the way Jesus Christ was with my mom. I guess that's why I brought it all up. Because that's the way Jesus Christ was with my mom. And look at the impact it had on me. I ain't going to disregard that. Although, I lied about ever having seizures and stuff like that to get into the military. Because if I would have told them I used to have seizures when I was a little boy, they wouldn't let me in. Of course I lied to them. Okay, but after I got out of the Gulf War and stuff like that, I did my time, and then time for me, I could go. And I wasn't going to stay anymore, that's for sure. But, I was depressed many years afterward. Well, many look, we only have 60 years, so at least 10 years afterward, I don't know. But, I say 60 years because I'm 60. I underestimated that. I apologize, because I hope to God I didn't really mean that, because I'm already past 60. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? 10 years. All right, maybe 10 years after, the Gulf War and stuff like that, I was thinking about that time, I was depressed. I went to a doctor, By that time, I figured out that, I didn't have any insurance anymore at that time, and I was a veteran. That's when I found out I could actually go to the Veterans Hospital, without paying, too much money. And I didn't have any insurance, so there's no reason for me to... Look, it's not like I'm going for checkups if I ain't got insurance. And that's the way a lot of Americans are at right now. They're going to be losing their insurance. All right, look, so I'm just saying I've been there. No money and stuff like that. And since I was a veteran, okay. I had for a long time, my arm kept going numb and everything like that. Like, I'd be working, with my arm, and fall completely asleep. A couple hundred times a day. And, VA told me for a long time, that's something about necropathy or something like that. As I said, it's from being overworked. And I said, no, it ain't from being overworked. But that's what they said. So after about 5 years of that, I x-rayed my neck, and then they said, you got, this that got to be fused together. That's why your arm keeps falling asleep. Look, man, they told me to go, and I had to work with this one, therapist or whatever like that. He told me these exercises, doing everything like that, I don't know, back and forth, and I don't know, whatever the hell, with these rubber bands and stuff like that. And, I look, I have worked so hard in my life before that kind of bullshit is just complete bullshit. All right? And I never did a damn thing. And then I went back to him and asked me, been doing your exercises? Yep. And he tested me. Oh, man, you're doing so much better. I can't believe it. And I never did a damn exercise. Well, look. I just keep that under hat, all right? I didn't tell him to make a big deal out of it. Look, everybody's got a job to do. People see what they want to see. I don't know how he did his test or whatever. Oh, he did his test by pushing back, seeing my resistance. Like as if he could actually remember. That's the other thing. He tested my, you're so much stronger. Bullshit. Yeah. Look, I don't know how I made that connection between that and, Jesus taking us by surprise. Okay. I don't know how I made that connection, but obviously it's there. Look, that was my mom. All right, that was my mom. Her relationship with Jesus, or whatever was going on in her, in her, cognitive, psychic experience. All right. Her whatever was going on in her, tapped into her consciousness. Obviously something did, and obviously it had an impact on me. So, Jesus Christ. And I'm saying it, Jesus Christ for real. Oh, come on now. That's what it's saying to me. The experience is saying to me. Come on now. And it's real for me because it happened. All that happened. And you want to know what else when something else happens? It's when the stuff that's going on today is happening. It's actually happening. This shit is actually happening and going on. And what are you going to do about it? As I'm talking to me. What am I going to do about it, I say to you? And I say that. I say that's what I have to ask myself. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to sit here and do nothing? Bullshit. Look, I'm responsible for this shit that's going on in my world. And so are you. That's why you got to be smart. Oh, I know why I wanted to bring this last one up now. This follow-up to my last one when I actually got touched by emotional energy, just like I'm being touched by right now. It's because, look, when I was overseas, I think it was in Egypt, I'm pretty sure it was Egypt, Ethiopia, I don't know, Ethiopia, maybe Egypt, somewhere. Something like that, I was in that area. And they had, because I went there, I seen the Roman kind of blockwork and everything. It still had printed in on the stone the picture of the pen and the sword. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. And last time I was talking about, look, Jesus Christ said, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and violent men take it by force. Those are the words of Jesus Christ. And when Peter, okay, this can modify what that means, okay, is these actions, okay, interpret what that means by these actions of Jesus Christ and Peter and this experience, this sits in Laban, this situation in life. Peter cuts the ear off of the Roman soldier that comes after Jesus Christ. He cuts his ear off. And that's where I'm at right now. I would cut their goddamn ear off. Because they're goddamn monsters. And Jesus took his ear and put it back on. Look, and then he said something, like I'm not exactly sure everything what he said right now because, that's not where I'm at, I'm not really thinking about all that. What I'm thinking about is that Peter cut his ear off and Jesus put it back on. Okay, you know what? I might cut somebody's ear off and Jesus can put it back on. Because that's where I'm at. But I'm also saying, look, the pen is mightier than the sword. And truth is stronger than brute force. And sometimes, you're caught in a situation where it's brute force against brute force. And look, I'm not opposed to that. I've had a lot of fights in my time. I'm not afraid of that, and I'm not going to back down from that. I'm going to stand my ground. And it's a matter of Jesus Christ, man. I ain't going to take your goddamn bullshit. Look, I'm in this world just like you are. Stand down, ass clown. And if you don't stand down, we're going to have a conflict to the end. and one of us is going to die. It's whatever way you want it to be. And to you, my grandchildren, okay? I'm just speaking my mind right now, I guess. All right? As, so you can understand. I guess, like my thinking. That's the way I feel. And I feel and also say, just as strongly, the pen is mightier than the sword. And that's where I left off last time. That you got to give truth a chance before you kill. I mean, there might come a time when you actually got to put skin in the game, when you actually got to fight, when you actually got to be willing to surrender your life. There might come a time. But don't bring it on. You got to pick the cross on which you're going to die. Don't throw your life away. And that's what I want to say in these two talks today, all right? That I put out. My final conclusion is this. Don't throw your life away. My last talk was don't be stupid. This talk is going to be don't throw your life away. I just wanted to kind of give clarification, to my previous one, the way you did a little bit ago. Like now it's like after 10 o'clock. The other one was like around 9 o'clock. And this one is a follow-up to that because, look, Jesus put the ear back on the soldier who Peter sliced. Okay? Look, Jesus had some dogs too. He's like, don't think my dogs would jump in the fight for me? Jesus Christ, man. If they see somebody, look, man, I've seen them in action. One time, Charlie, the father of them all. Okay? A cop pulled up in my driveway. I didn't think anything of it, I just opened up my gate to, see like what he wanted or something like that. And Charlie came running out, jumping in midair, flying through the air, at least like 2 or 2.5 feet off the ground, through the air, sailing, grabbed that cop's lapel and pulled it that way. Or whatever way. The cop turned around when he seen Charlie coming. He turned around, I looked, and I go, Charlie, but he was in midair. And he grabbed that cop's lapel and yanked it. and then he came to me. Charlie. And he was a mastiff, about 180 pounds of flying power through the air. Okay, well, you know what? That's what Denzel Washington in the Book of Eli, I guess his name was Eli in the movie, which I just seen, That's the way he was too. He went flying through the air. The Book of Eli. That was a good movie. I just seen it last night, I watched it for the first time. And it was about the Word of God. And the guy that tried to use the Word of God for ulterior motivation, okay, everybody in the end was destroying his place because he didn't have more soldiers. But the printing press over where Eli went to, when he had to lay down after he already took a bullet to the stomach, but God say he'd keep him alive in his mind. He had that vision in his heart. He felt that spirit, and he, even though he had a bullet in his belly, okay, he got finally to the place where they had the printing press out west where he was going, across the waters, Okay? And he just, since he had a Braille Bible, he had blind in one eye, it showed in the end, that's why I don't know, he could read Braille. But he memorized his Bible, so even though they took that Bible from him and shot him in the belly, he still made it out west. And, he did, he laid down on a table and quoted from Genesis to Revelation. Because he learned it. He had a gift from the spirit of inspiration that helped him to put that all in his mind and in his heart. And he got it finally over there after everything was decimated. And he told them the book. That's why they call it the Book of Eli, because he remembered it. Well, that's because it's empowered. Look, man, when you go through the Old Testament, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of really like irrelevant, like like the names of everybody. There's a whole like chapter, big part in there. I was thinking, well, he really memorized the whole Bible. He memorized all that bullshit. That's the wrong thing, because there's a lot of bullshit in there. You don't got to memorize everything, but if you get the points, like there's a whole thing in there. I don't know, for the Jews or something. For the lineage of Jesus Christ. Whatever. So people would accept it in these earlier states of being. All the names. They got the list of all the names, going from Adam and Eve all the way down to Abraham, and then finally all the way to Jesus. The lineage. Because he had to be of the lion of Judah. One of the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, that's where Jesus was from. He had to be to fulfill the prophecy. It's an amazing kind of story. Because, it's a story written in history of tradition and mythology and legend and everything that they made up, that they remembered, that they taught. It was their story. See? And you can't ever argue with a person's story. Okay? You can't argue with their experience. It's a losing battle. And that's why actually, when I think about that, I think about truth. See, if you do an honest assessment of your life, okay, like I always have a hard time about trying to figure out why there has to be lies in the world and stuff like that. Lies, making things alternate kind of realities, and people believe in like contrary, divisive with each other things that bring war, and alternate intentions, and then fights with lies. That is what Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu points that out. That's why, Sun Tzu is, like I talk about, like my 3 captains, but now I got 4, Sun Tzu, Buddha, and Jesus, in that order. Or it might be Sun Tzu, it might be Jesus. Okay, Jesus first, in my life, experience, then, Sun Tzu, and then Buddha. But really, kind of Buddha and Sun Tzu kind of became my companions around the same time. But God and Jesus Christ have been there ever since basically I've been born. I had to go into higher education to learn about Buddha and Sun Tzu, or probably just another, get a little bit older and more experience in life, and then the nature of life kind of comes out, and then I understand a little bit more about adversity and war, which my life culminated in. In the military, going to war, for real. And all other ways too. From my final thinking now, after all these, 60-some years, I understand a few things. And so, What I'm understanding right now is, the difference between the pen and the sword. The sword stands for war. Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu's Art of War. Okay, I know you know that, and I'm saying, okay, I understand that too. And so, you better make Sun Tzu one of your captains. You also better make the Buddha one of your captains. And then, but you know what? You need to also make for the head of your whole team. Well, you and Jesus Christ. Because that's the highest standard of ethics. And if you're going to live in this life, okay, you can't, I don't think it's just a good thing to live by the rules of Sun Tzu, because that means that there's nothing other than power and force. And I don't believe that. I believe there should be love, because, and a lot of people say God is love, and it's on this basis, and that's the same basis that I share where everybody else says stuff like that is standing on. There are a lot of people that understand this. Not everybody is based on Sun Tzu. And I'm not trying to diminish or make evil or make thinking any kind of bad thoughts about Sun Tzu, because I'm not. Because I am Sun Tzu, just like Sun Tzu. I know that spirit. I also know the spirit of the Buddha. And I also know the spirit of Jesus Christ, and all three of them are my friends. But the fourth one is, now that I'm thinking, that I have been thinking for a long time now, ever since I've been doing my journal, because I have to come down with some serious kind of bottom line conclusions. And now I understand also, well, I need to have one, for science. So I'm thinking, like Einstein and, Hawking's. I mean, Hawking's when all those, Einstein, kind of like the beginning. And then of like, like it's getting on the trail to like quantum science, like dealing with the quantum kind of like quantum physics, quantum stuff, and the cosmology of the stars and everything, the planets, the galaxies, the universes, the macrocosms. And so, that's a big deal. And I've always had the bent toward, this scientific approach. Like a scientific approach, Like actually, controls and side-by-side, comparisons and tests and what you call like a skepticism, like, it's like a healthy, strong skepticism, like you ain't gonna take no bullshit. That kind of deal. And that is a scientific approach. It's honest. And it's disciplined. And so that's what I'm for. I'm your grandfather. So you're hearing this. That's what I'm for, and that's what I'm telling you. I'm encouraging you to be the same, because I can't see any other way. I can't see any other way that is right. This is the right way. And so, and I'm thinking hard about what this all means, and if it's a simulation or what the hell everything like this is all about. And I keep in mind all the different things, like, why do we dream? And I've had stuff told to me in my dreams that I never even heard anybody ever say in my life. When somebody's teaching me how to fly a plane, and the mechanics of the plane, and it was even one of my other ex-friends from a long time ago, and I've had all kinds, so much stuff happen just in my dreams. And I can't help but think, what the hell is this all about? And so it comes down to the final analysis, you know, where the rubber meets the road. What the hell is going on? What are you going to do about it? That's why I say you gotta, it's a big situation, man. But don't fear. Don't fear. No. Look, Boomer's not afraid. None of my dogs are afraid. Look, Peter cut that soldier's ear off. He wasn't afraid. Don't be afraid. But what I'm saying is, you know, like, just don't be trigger happy to cut the soldier's ear off. All right. Even Jesus might even put it back on. He ain't gonna hold you responsible too much for it. Like, I'm thinking about whoever. You know what? Okay. There's so much different stuff that goes on. Like the whole Charlie Kirk bit. I don't even think that this guy even actually, this young kid, I don't think he actually even killed Charlie Kirk. Seriously. It's almost like impossible. I don't think he's going to be held guilty because, look, just a little bit that I know about it is public. Like, people had phone cameras. They know the directions of things and everything like that. So, there's a lot of strange stuff that's going on, you know. And you got to be really, really smart. That's why I was saying last time, be really smart. But look, the bottom line for me right now, the pen is mightier than the sword. And I always remember that. And that's what I seen when I went over into Turkey, or Egypt. Yeah, Egypt. When I was over in Egypt, I seen where in the Roman times they wrote engraved it in the stone. And I actually seen it like in a stone, man. Had a picture, and they said on there, like you know, I don't remember what the actual words were in the Arabic or whatever it was, Greek, Arabic, I don't know. I think it was Greek, obviously Greek. In the stone. But look, they add the picture of the pen and the sword. And it said the pen is mightier than the sword. And that's what they said a long time ago. And I still believe it. I believe it's true. Even though them empires fell, that doesn't mean that the pen is not mightier than the sword. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Because I don't want to kill anybody, really. I mean, I don't. And I don't want you to kill anybody because it might not be a smart idea. Unless if it has to come down to a bloody war, all right? If it has to come down to it, I'm saying you got to be prepared. Just like in No Sun Tzu's teaching, you got to be prepared to fight if that's what you're going to commit yourself to. But once you make that decision, there is no turning back. Okay? So don't make that decision prematurely. And always remember that the pen is mightier than the sword. Mightier than the sword. But it might come a time we have to just fucking take the automatic rifle, man, and start blasting away people just like they do in the Vietnam War. But we don't want it to be like that in America. Look, man. We can blow this planet up into smithereens like 16 times. With all the nuclear and atomic shit, man. And there's crazy people. And if fighting starts, that would blast cities to hell. Once the fighting starts, it will not end until there is annihilation. That's why don't press the button prematurely. So, I'm just going to call this one Don't Press the Button Prematurely and leave it there. Because everything I said, I think it can come up to that point. That's actually the punctiliar point in which I mean. Don't press the button prematurely. All right, bye. I love you, bye.